Hi, welcome to Unit 2. This unit will cover ethnicity and race and what that might mean in education. Before we get started, please pause the podcast or just think about the answers to these questions. I wanted you to think about your thoughts to these questions because as we learn about races and ethnicities, we need to have a good understanding of our own ethnicity and our thoughts around the topic. Many times people use the words ethnicity and race interchangeably. Are they the same thing? This is how our book describes them. The characteristics of the ethnic groups changes over time. For example, characteristics of an Asian American ethnicity looks different today than it did 40 years ago. Defining a person by their ethnicity is not always clear-cut. One does not have to live in the same community with others of the same ethnic group to continue ethnic identity. The degree of ethnic identity is determined by recognition and promotion of ethnicity in the family. For some, ethnic identity provides them with the security of belonging and knowing who they are. Racial groups are comprised of many ethnic groups. Conversely, ethnic groups may include members of more than one racial group. Racial identification has been used to classify groups of people as inferior or superior to other racial groups, resulting in discrimination and inequality. Now take just another minute to think about or jot down your thoughts to these questions. It's really important for you to honestly think about things so that you're better prepared to teach all students. It's important to realize that everyone has prejudice and may have racist thoughts because of their life experiences. I know that several of you are probably disagreeing with me right now saying, I'm not racist, but our experiences do negatively or positively affect our thoughts. Let me give you an example from my life. I grew up in a small town in northeast Missouri, Kirksville, if you've heard of it. In my high school class, we only had one Asian student, and he was our valedictorian. So in my mind, all Asians were extremely bright and had good grades. When I started working in a school that had a large Hmong population, I expected all of them to do well in school. But that was not the case. Many of them really struggled, and I had to rethink my thinking. A more recent example that I want you to think about is how you react when you're getting on an airplane and you see a Middle Eastern man. Does it make you a little nervous? Here's how our book defines prejudice and racism. In looking at a previous podcast that I've done for this course, I would say that racism is much more at the forefront of Americans' thinking than it was a year ago. But many educators claim colorblindness. So how does this impact what you do at school? Rather than pretending that race and ethnicity do not exist, teachers should acknowledge the differences and be aware of the ways that they can influence learning. And equity does not always mean the same. Students can be treated differently to accomplish the goal of student learning. But rather than blatant racism in schools, much of what happens in institutions is called institutional racism. This racism is usually unintentional. It's just the way things have always been done. In our unit, we'll be reading and discussing about possible institutional racism. Educators have an increasing responsibility for ensuring that all students learn and for helping them understand that the world in which they are likely to work in is multi-ethnic and multiracial, unlike the school that they may be attending. Students' race and ethnicity can have a significant impact on how educators perceive them and their behavior and performance in school. It's critical that teachers are aware of the cultures and experiences of their students. There are different ways to incorporate ethnicity and race into the curriculum. I would like to see every school use a multi-ethnic curriculum. Why is talking about ethnicity and race so important? We need to prepare our students to live and work in a diverse global society. The next few slides will highlight the diversity and changes in the United States in just the past few years. This map shows the percentage of foreign-born residents in each state. The darker the green, the higher the percentage. Here's another view of the state's immigrants. Are there any state percentages that surprised you? This chart shows a percent change in the immigrant population by state. What kind of impact would a large jump in the immigrants mean to a school district? School districts many times aren't prepared to work with their new students. It's not just the number and percentage of immigrants that have changed, but where the immigrants are originally from. Does that make a difference in educating students? We know that students have a much easier time acculturating when their native culture is closer to the dominant U.S. culture. We many times think that immigrants are from Mexico. As you can see in this graph, Mexico is the biggest single country that people are immigrating from. However, Mexico looks like it is around 25%. That means many of our students are coming from different parts of the world. By looking in this graph, we know that we will probably have more and more immigrant students in our classroom. But what if they're unauthorized? It doesn't matter. Every child in the United States has a right to an education. This was decided in the 1982 Supreme Court decision in Pyler versus Doe. Our job is to educate all children. Teacher effectiveness is more important in student achievement than a student's ethnicity, race, poverty, or a parent's education level. With effective teachers, low-achieving students can become high-achieving students. Thank you for listening. Have a great rest of the day. Make sure that you follow the agenda and do all the activities in this unit. And let me know if you have any questions. Thanks again.